unlike members of the public who are free to conclude on the basis of information in the media or one or other book that they might have read, I must never be understood to have taken a position on anything that was not decided upon by a court of law. Therefore, I begin by saying, what if it is true that a project or services that could be comfortably rendered at a price of 9 or 9 million rands end up being paid for an amount of 600 million? What if it is in fact true that before an agreement has been signed that would serve as the basis for payment, money begins to roll in and shared among a number of people in circumstances where no service was even rendered in advance in anticipation of a contract just about to be concluded? What if all of what we have heard from the Zondo Commission, the PIC, and any other investigative body that has been doing one work or the other in our country is in fact true? And what if that is only the tip of the iceberg? That can only mean that we're in trouble. I saw something at the bottom of the news on television yesterday to the effect that our GDP is disadvantaged on an annual basis to the tune of 27 billion rands, I think, and that as a result of corruption, at least 66,000 people lose jobs every year. I've been led to believe that around 9 million people are unemployed in this country. A country that is amazingly well endowed with natural resources and mineral resources, hard-working and intelligent people who have previously displayed the capacity to tackle any problem that comes their way with relative ease. In case of doubt, just reflect on the fact that we are now a constitutional democracy. It was unthinkable when it was announced that South Africans across the color divide will be coming together to chart the way forward so that the killings, the hatred, the misunderstandings of the past can at long last come to an end. But here we are. I wouldn't have been Chief Justice. It was unthinkable that I could be as recently as the 26th of May, 1994. But it has become a practical reality. The question is, what happened? And where were we? How did we allow a country that I have read was owing 245 billion when the new democracy set in and ultimately wiped off the debt to again degenerate to the levels to which it has degenerated? What happened? And where were we, I ask? What went wrong? I think part of the problem, and maybe one of the major problems, is that we have jettisoned the value systems that made it possible for a person who doesn't even know you to want to die for you in pursuit of justice and freedom. The reality is that the people of this country, black and white, were at some stage so committed to the values that explains how people become successful, that they were prepared to sacrifice any and everything, including their lives, so that freedom, justice for all, and shared prosperity, national unity and reconciliation can become a practical reality. What happened? It appears that as soon as the possibility to vote whoever you want into office, we thought everything will automatically work itself out. The Constitution, our laws, would implement themselves, and therefore we don't have to worry about being overly committed to the value system and the principles that explained how an impossibility that was defeating apartheid became a possibility. We seem to have abandoned our responsibility to raise our own children as families and as communities the way we were raised. The caring that was alluded to by the chairperson ceased to exist. Just cast your mind back to how you were raised at home. Those values, respect, responsibility, accountability, integrity, honesty, appear to have ceased to exist. I accept that each community, each ethnic group has got a way in which it raises its children, probably. But in my village, it was unthinkable that I would speak of a person occupying the position of president, regardless of who I was, and say, I was with Cyril yesterday, and Cyril, it was unthinkable. It was not a dictatorial tendency. It was to give me a sense of respect, a sense of a relationship, how best to relate to authority. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you call a person by his first name or her first name, you are being disrespectful. I'm saying, if only each grouping could go to the basics, the fundamentals that made it possible for them to coexist peacefully as a family, as a community, that sharing, ensuring that nobody goes to bed hungry. Never used to happen. You had a way of telling. They are lacking there, and you saw it as your responsibility. The value systems that we embraced at the time dictated that you fish out for those who don't have, and know that if crime is to be proactively prevented, make sure that nobody suffers hunger, nobody suffers the indignity of being dependent for the rest of their lives on others. Diligence was encouraged. Justice was the order of the day. So, is poor governance and a paucity of ethical leadership in South Africa, broadly speaking, a consequence of the absence of institutions and the regulatory framework that is necessary for them to obtain? I say no. Look at our Constitution. It gives you all the fundamentals. It lays out the foundation you need for good governance to set in. What about institutions that are critical for good governance? They are the institutions that are necessary to root out crime or reduce crime, to root out corruption, are available. How then do we rank number 73 worldwide among the corrupt? When Nelson Mandela was president of this country, what a pride it was to meet people from other nations, and they say, "Where are you from?" I'm from South Africa. And they say, "Oh, Madiba." That's how they would respond. Because the Constitution and our regulatory framework and the institutions that were created were made to work. And maybe part of what we must do, turning back to the values, is to reflect on how we raise our children, if we do raise our children anymore. Because some children are raised by television, social media, their street or friends, and then we get surprised when they don't turn out to be what we desire for them to be. Shouldn't be surprised if you never invested any effort in ensuring that they become what you want them to be. There's got to be a vision. It doesn't start at a national level. It starts right at home. This is the vision that my family and I will follow, and then you begin to look at what is necessary for that vision to be implemented. Let's go back to those values and make sure that parents are encouraged to inculcate them. We often look for big and highly sophisticated solutions. It is what appears to be small that matters the most. What are we teaching our children? What do we teach them about tribalism? What do we teach them about xenophobia? What do we teach them about ethnicity and racism? What is it that we teach our children? What do kindergarten or early learning centers teach them? What about schools? What about religious organizations or faith-based organizations? Is there a national plan to be rolled out to every level of society to make sure that we become these people that the preamble to our Constitution and the value systems that we used to embrace say, which is our voice, that we want to be? Is there a plan? Is there a monitoring mechanism? How do we choose leaders? Who qualifies to be a leader? Is there a sifting mechanism of sorts? Or is a leadership responsibility available to be assumed by anybody who either knows another or belongs to a particular structure or has resources to get there? Is there a criterion? I read a very interesting story. I don't know if it is true or not, but let us assume it is, about how China selects leaders. I'm not pushing for communism. I'm just giving an example. I'm told that there are sifting mechanisms. Even if you were to make yourself available for a leadership position, whether it is within party structure, you are going to be screened before you get there, so that only those with the capacity and the integrity to assume meaningful leadership responsibilities get to contest for leadership positions. What if we pursued that option? I don't think it's impossible. Isn't it desirable that, for starters, before you can become a president, there are very stringent requirements to be met before you can even begin to run? No, it's not done anywhere. That's our problem. We want to do what has been done elsewhere. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel, but in certain respects, our challenges are unique. And we therefore have to go deeper than other people have had to go in order to truly grapple with our challenges until a solution is found. What if we decide that we're going to look for a very stringent mechanism for checking out those who otherwise would have ended up in leadership positions when in fact they don't qualify? What if you took what the Kenyans and the Americans, and I see now the people in England are doing, to a higher level? real testing. I saw them question Mr. Boris Johnson, hey, why did the police have to come to your house? More of that need to be done. And then, not the one who has resources, not the one who is well connected, but the best that we need to take us out of the challenges that confront us, becomes the one who is elected. I haven't been paying attention. Let me try and round up. Because it matters who becomes president of a country. It matters who becomes a cabinet minister. It matters who becomes a mayor and a premier. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a situation where out of 257 municipalities, only 18 have clean audits. Something is fundamentally wrong about the selection process. So I think we should begin to think about tests that people must be subjected to before they can be elevated to positions of high responsibility. I go back to the position of president. It is the president who appoints people who head state-owned companies or enterprises, and whoever you appoint to head those institutions will determine who he or she gets surrounded by. If you appoint a rotten apple at any level, you don't even have to split hairs to find out who else is going to be there, and you don't even have to sweat it out to understand what is going to happen to that entity. So we owe it to ourselves and to posterity to insist on mechanisms being in place to get only the best to positions of responsibility. I've been thinking a lot, even about ministers. I think it's not just enough that a credible leader is at the top and appoint ministers. They must be subjected to scrutiny. Look at what the Americans do. I think it's good. I'm not captured by America. I'm just citing an example. You've got to go there in Parliament as a suggested minister, or even deputy minister, or head of an SOE, and it must be televised. Let information be gathered about you. Let us test your capacity to discharge ministerial responsibilities before you can, and share your vision with us. What have you ever done? Why do you think you can do this one? What about that record? Then we go in somewhere. And maybe we must even go so far as to change our electoral system so that you don't feel overly obligated to side with a position that you would otherwise not have sided with because of the mechanics that made it possible for you to get there. Some personal accountability, some personal responsibility to those that put you in that position is perhaps a way to go. A very crazy idea that I want to also share is this, and I know it may anger many, but it's all right. We must annoy each other at a forum like this. I think we must really reflect seriously on how we fund political parties, especially when they run for elections. I think it may have to be the responsibility of the taxpayer to fund them, so that when they get in there as parliamentarians, ministers, mayors, or whatever, we whose money put them there will be accounted to. Because I'm not too sure that I would want, if I had it, I would want to give 5 million, 10 million to a person just because I like them. I'm not too sure. Because I'm a human being. The possibility exists that some, not all, would do so as an investment. And when there is a big tender coming, I don't really have to say much. Just say, oh my sister, so you made it. Yes. So that 15 million made a difference. Yes, I understand there are trains to be acquired. Yes. I think, yeah, I really like trains, you know. Because money speaks. I have said it and I say it again. It's not every year that we hold elections. And we may even creatively make sure that local government, provincial and national happen together. I don't know. It's for the political analysts to look at that. But whatever number of billions it would cost for us to have public representatives that are not perceived as being beholden to anybody, let's do it. We send them from our own. It's not about it's never done anywhere. It's about the originality that we so desperately need, particularly because not many people are as financially well-resourced as we would want them to be to run credible elections or campaigns from their own pockets. Let me conclude by saying, I've run out of time. South Africa has got many wise people, thinkers indeed. We have amazing plans which, if implemented, we would be in a situation far different from where we are right now. But I'm not too sure that we have as many implementers as we need. Otherwise, a lot of progress would have been made in the area of implementing the National Development Plan and many other plans that we have. Let us pay particular attention to that. Implementers, people with a track record or the potential to implement. Let us pursue national unity. You know, when a family is threatened, we abandon whatever it is we have been doing to rally around the common family agenda. Whether we like it or not, we are one big South African family. We are not white people, we are not black people, we are not Indian people, we are not colored or First Nation people. We are one South African people. And our family is in trouble. Isn't it about time that we reflect on things that divide us and focus on what unite us or could unite us? Aren't there far too many things that ought to bring us together so that we can combat crime, corruption, and all the other economic challenges that confront us? Don't we spend a lot of energy on negative things and fault finding rather than the shared vision outlined by our Constitution so that we can get to where we're supposed to be? Let's find solutions to these small things that divide us, like racism. Let us engage in very uncomfortable debate so that we can get there. Maybe part of our problem is I'll be coming here and position myself to say only what people will like so that they can praise me and they can tweet well about me. It should never be about that. I always remember those who died so that I can be where I am, so that our country can be where it is. I always remember those black and white people who suffered and their families disintegrated so that we can get to this point. Why can't you and I? Particularly because there is no risk of being killed. It's limited, it lurks in the horizon always, but it's not that heightened. Sacrifice, reject greed, embrace generosity, stop damaging our environment and our institutions, be a mobilized and very active civil society, fight for the strength of our institutions regardless of who is there. Not pep up those that say what we like and criticize others, even if they haven't necessarily done anything wrong, but because they are not doing our bidding. I apologize for taking too long. Let's pursue good governance, servant leadership, ethical leadership. Let's inculcate those values, even at our workplaces. Let us be talking about them wherever we are. Thank you.